So, I guess it would probably be remiss of us to talk about like making your own system and about like weird themes for systems without me mentioning the two attempts. I suppose technically there have been three attempts, but I don't want to talk about the superhero one. The two attempts that I've made at like coming up with a role-playing game system.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them was the aforementioned Pacific Rim RPG, which is I don't think I need to talk any more about that. Like I talked about probably the only thing of particular interest in it, except that it kept the idea of having two Jaeger pilots, so you'd have like shared sheets. So it would very much be like a one-shot thing, largely because that would be when you could get people together. The other attempt I made was a really fucking ridiculous idea.
Okay, yeah, that's that. Yeah, we're
And
all open to
the working title for it was Track Dogs.
right.
And it was basically me going, this is a good idea. I will take the two ridiculous things that I like and ram them together into this terrifyingly ridiculous like hole. And the premise is it's a post-apocalyptic setting set in an alternate universe where basically like the like Dr. Beeching never existed and shit like that. And like pretty much the entire countryside. I think like the idea that I had was that it would be unclear where this was set, and it was like you'd think that the major setting was probably in Europe, but there were no like real landmarks and shit to point that out.
Yeah.
Where like the countryside basically would be covered in these giant impassable like seas of greenery, of like trees and bushes and shit. That became almost completely dark as you went into them just because of how much like coverage there was. And you could very easily die. And so people in this post-apocalypse have like very small settlements like scattered across the landscape, and the only way to get anywhere from like point A to point B is by train, because there are like train tracks everywhere. And like for some reason, I think I had at one point I had it to do with like nanomachines or something.
Yeah.
Like the rail system very rarely, if ever, breaks down. Individual trains can, but like the rail system itself, like the actual like electric power being supplied to the overhead masts and the quality of the rails and whatnot, like that is all taken care of. So this entire society is centered on the act of like building and maintaining rail locomotives of all kinds, so that they can actually like travel and trade between like between settlements. But also there tend to be like 5 parallel tracks on any given rail line. So you also have train pirates who just like run up alongside you and like board you, and then people have like sword fights in tricorner hats on the roofs of trains and shit.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you get to basically like the entire reason for that ridiculously contrived setup.
Yeah.
Is so that you can have trains and pirates and train pirates, like the pilot that never got off the ground of the Brian Blessed vehicle, Train Pirates, but played totally straight.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to play this, but also it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever made. I just thought it was funny, like, coming up with all of these, like, contrived reasons as to why, like, this incredibly indulgent concept would happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the idea of, like, giant forests as seas is not strictly speaking mine. Like, somebody else came up with that for an unrelated different thing. But even so, it's like, sometimes people fall off the roofs of trains and, like, down the embankment into the forest, and then they're never seen again.
Okay, I've got a concept.
Yeah.
And another idea for one of these games, because I was looking at my manga bookshelf and I was like, a game set in one of these, like, I don't know how much BL manga you've read, Alex.
I don't even know what that means.
Boys love yaoi, dude on dude.
Alright, okay. Not a huge amount, but I think a non-zero amount if we're including like webcomic published stuff.
So we're kind of talking, like, sometimes you will get these very weird or I almost sort of consider them pocket universes and like alternate universes within themselves, because you will never see any women in these stories whatsoever. So like one of these weird.
Now is this like the times? Because I know sometimes when that happens in like fan fiction, they try and explain why that's the case. Like it's a definitively explicit thing in the universe that there aren't any women, and sometimes it's just like there ostensibly are women because we're not mentioning it as weird that there aren't any, but they don't appear on screen, as it were.
The other one, yeah. But basically, all you do is you play these like the kind of, because here's the thing about yaoi manga when you compared to like yuri manga or like heterosexual hentai. Yaoi manga has like a long, wide breadth of genres that it pulls from. You've got like the yakuza genre. You've got like the kind of like thief kind of masked like gentleman thief kind of stuff. You've got the schoolboys. You've got like this. You've got that. You've got the catboy stuff. You've got this a whole wide subsection of genres that are all in this monster of a genre. You know, like in most yuri manga, it's just all schoolgirls, and they all figure out they're not a lesbian by the end of it. And they're all hentai. It's just they're all straight people, and they all just really like raping each other. That's hentai. And then you've got yaoi, where it's just like all of this weird shit. So I'm thinking, you take all of the weird stuff. It's like, okay, but you all frame it around the idea that you're all basically in a yaoi manga universe, and I'm losing myself a bit here. I'm losing the idea a bit, but you've got like a yakuza guy, you've got like a schoolboy, you've got like a host club person, you've got this guy who's a cat boy. That kind of ridiculous, like made RPG, but with yaoi tropes. I don't know.
Right, and we're still having that same idea. Is like the ongoing joke is that it's not that there aren't any women, and you can talk about women as if they exist.
Yeah.
But there's like no stats for them in the book, and they don't ever turn up in any of the scenarios
Nope.
or anything.
It's like you just like women exist, but we just
Somewhere.
don't. They're somewhere.
Yeah, women exist conceptually.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, like that's not just a thing in yaoi. That happens in yuri as well, but with dudes, obviously. It's like...
Oh, does it? I thought that like a lot of yuri would be like centered on this idea of like men being ever present, and like one of the women is like, I am tired of men now. I'm going to switch over because that's a thing that happens.
Nah. It's like it's all set in like a school normally an all girls school.
Yes, an environment where it makes sense that there wouldn't be many men.
Yeah, but like conceptually you will hear about boys and characters having boyfriends, but I don't think I've ever read a yuri manga where I've actually ever seen a boy. Like...
Well, I mean, in a yuri manga, that just means like when you say I have a boyfriend, like surely that just means it's going to be a little harder than usual to get me in bed.
Yeah. Like, yeah. But like, and you've got like, yeah, but like in yaoi manga, like I've read yaoi manga where I've seen women, and women have been like major characters and like stuff like that. Like I read one not too long ago where like you even saw his sister, and she was like central to the plot and was actually a major force in getting the couple together, because she was like, I really want my brother to be happy, and like that's nice. That doesn't normally happen in manga,
I should maybe be clear to like anybody who's listening to this with an analytical ear. I'm not like being blasé and like completely ignorant about why I assumed that like yuri manga would be different in how it portrayed its context to yaoi manga. Like I know exactly why.
Yeah.
I just don't particularly want to talk about that at the moment because we'll never stop.
No, yeah. It just these things. Anyway, I guess it's just because I've been reading a bit more BL than normal lately, and I was like thinking about yaoi tropes, and then I looked at my bookshelf and I was like, holy shit, I'm never going to be able to sell any of this at Oxfam. Fuck.
Oh.
Actually, no, I think you can. No, you can't, can you? Because it counts as pornography shit.
I feel like that's a rule that they have now. It might not have been a rule that Oxfam had when they started.
It's like erotica is different. Like erotica, you can sell erotica, but I feel like
you've got to find the line between pornography and erotica.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like erotica, like, it's in written word only, whereas, like, I feel like drawings of stuff happening is a lot like photographs of stuff happening.
It's true.
So, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to...
So, we were talking earlier about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as an RPG system would be simultaneously A, cool, and B, fucking exhausting. Can you imagine, like, how on you would need, like, not just the GM, but also the players to be to maintain that level of, like off the cuff, that level of, like, absurdist humor the whole way? That would be, I mean, it would be fun, but God.
Yeah, like, you would basically need to clone... You would basically need to find some DNA of Douglas Adams, clone him 4 times, make sure they grow up appropriately to an age where they're able to play Dungeons and Dragons, and
then find out that by doing that you actually killed what it was that was going to make them the correct kind of absurdist humorist.
Yeah.
And then you have to start all over again.
They have to start all over again. Put them in the clone incinerator and start all over again. God, that would be awful. Yeah, this batch of Douglas Adamses didn't turn out correctly, so I had to put them in the clone incinerator. What can you do?
You know, why don't we just get, like, a whole load of really good improv comedians who are fans of Douglas Adams and, like, try and make them make their best approximation of, don't question my methods, Alan.
Yeah, maybe that would work. But does that mean that, like, if one of the comedians fucks up, I get to put them in the clone incinerator? Because
I don't think so.
I got that built especially for them.
Maybe. It depends what we put in the contract, because presumably we're televising this.
Presumably, yeah, because otherwise what's the fucking point, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just kidnapping 4 comedians for no reason and making them play, like, a tabletop role-playing game with you. That's this year's House of Bards anniversary game, by the way.
Well, what, we get kidnapped?
No, we're going to kidnap 4 popular comedians.
Okay.
We're not. So...
No. I'm actually just looking at, like, my shelf that has the most fiction on it and thinking about all, like, the YA lit that would actually be, like, reasonably good to turn into a tabletop role-playing game.
I'm looking at my comic book shelf. I think it would be interesting to do a Frankenstein mobster verse. So Frankenstein
wouldn't that be like White Wolf, but like noir?
I mean, that's kind of like a little bit. So, like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're looking at noir.
Yeah.
Starman.
Jumping off that, actually, there's probably a Hellboy like tabletop role playing game.
Oh yeah, duh.
But I'm thinking also, pretty much anything Garth Nix has ever written could make a decent tabletop role-playing game. Like, obviously, Keys to the Kingdom works because you can have, like... Well, I mean, it works. I feel like Keys to the Kingdom doesn't quite work as a, like, setting that you're trying to build a game off, but it's good for inspiration for, like, that kind of weird setting where everything has a bunch of rules that protagonists don't really understand. And is, like, doing things to them against their will, and everything... Like, if you liked it when we talked in the Halloween episode about vampires having forbiddance, you'd probably really like a Keys to the Kingdom inspired, like, game where everything has these weird folkloric rules that you can't break, or that bad things will happen to you if you break. And there's also, like, main characters who are, like, conscious all the time of the fact that they become more a component part of this world they're in the longer they stay in it. And there's also the Old Kingdom, which would probably work because it has, like, a very well established magic system, and I think it has, like, maps and stuff as well. And then if you go into science fiction, there's Shade's Children, which would probably be pretty great to just, like, play straight as a tabletop RPG. That you're, like, this group of, like, post-apocalyptic teenagers in Australia who are, like, running away from being turned into, like, horrible cybernetic monstrosities.
Oh, that reminds me of another YA series, well, not YA, a young adult book, on the similar idea of jumping off from cybernetic monstrosities. It's called Unwound or something like that, and basically it's a kind of like a post something future, God knows what happened, where basically they were like, okay, so basically when a bunch of people reach the age of 16, basically get made brain dead and get used for like organ donations and stuff like that. Just a population of teenagers get used for that, and it's like randomly selected.
That's effectively the plot of Shade's Children, except it's all humans. The age is 14, and instead of getting used for being organ donors, they're like turned based on like, you know, what kind of body type they have into one of a variety of like cybernetic monstrosities, so that like a group of super beings from another dimension can like play war games.
Yeah. No, I get you. Like, whereas in Unwound, it's just like a really awful, terrible solution to a real world problem we have. That I mean, I suppose the Tory government could do that, but like, I mean, I can see that happening. Yeah.
I remember I once made up like not a tabletop roleplay scenario, but like a forum roleplay scenario that was like this hellish, not post-apocalyptic, but dystopian universe where impoverished teenagers are captured and like utilized basically as makeovers for like rich old people.
Yeah.
Where they just get like their consciousness overwritten.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, worn like an outfit.
Yeah.
By these people, like by the bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
Which was honestly pretty fucking horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, that could legitimately be a young adult, like, novel. Like...
Yeah, it could. It could also be like a tabletop RPG, because you'd probably be able to play it as like an intrigue type thing, where like you're never entirely sure. Because presumably you'd be in like the Resistance or something.
Yeah. Call of Cthulhu, where instead of fighting Cthulhu, you fight the bourgeoisie and find out their horrific plans of what they plan to do to the young people. Fucking baby boomers, am I right? Call of baby boomers.
I mean, there's also Trail of Cthulhu, which is like Call of Cthulhu, but like more explicitly like gumshoey.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Also Achtung Cthulhu, which is Cthulhu but also Nazis.
Yeah. Okay, right. I know you mentioned gumshoe, and that's just reminded me Ace Attorney, a role-playing game where you play characters in Ace Attorney in that explicitly like over-the-top, very colourful, bunny ears lawyer type style.
And the GM can like constantly keep up making legal precedent for things because
the
law doesn't matter in Ace Attorney.
No, it does not. Like, obviously the GM is the judge, and like he's playing very, and like I don't know, characters switch between being different witnesses, and there's one character who's the prosecution, one character who's the defense, and then like two players decide, we're going to be like different witnesses and stuff like that, and you just improv a whole crazy court case that obviously has a real solution that the DM's cooked up.
Yeah, I'm envisioning like you have 6 players, right?
Yeah.
You have the GM, who is sometimes the judge and sometimes just like an omnipresent god GM, depending on what's needed.
Yeah.
You have 2, I want to say like, you have probably 3 people who are like actual like proper characters, where you have one of them is whoever like the Phoenix Wright or Apollo Justice like stand-in.
Yeah.
One of them is like the sort of rival-ish opponent, like the person you play is always the defense lawyer, right? So this would be the prosecution.
Yeah.
And one of them is like the Maya or somebody, like the sidekick who like goes to all of the investigatory stuff with Phoenix or whoever.
Yeah.
And then the 2 other players are sort of like semi-GMs, where like the GM lets them into some stuff but not other stuff, and then with that information they come up with like a whole crop of like characters who could be met during the investigatory steps by either the prosecution or the defense, and then asked to come in as witnesses.
Yeah.
Which would be a really cool dynamic, like to have people who are like halfway between players and GMs.
Yeah. Actually, I think as well you would also have another player on the prosecution side who would play Dick Gumshoe.
That's true, actually. So maybe,
Maybe, who is like
7 people is a large number, but I think you would still want 2 people to like have different perspectives on the on the whole being a like
like I feel you can do it with just one.
Well,
but-
obviously, you wouldn't necessarily need Maya and Dick, so you could cut
No.
it down to 4 players.
Yeah.
Or even 3, actually, if you just had, like, one who was, like, all of the witnesses.
Yeah. But then obviously as well, you know, like Maya and Dick, they can be called to the stand as witnesses because, like, obviously Dick is a police officer.
Yeah, and Maya is a psychic and also knows stuff that Phoenix has seen and can, like, corroborate it.
Yeah.
That's true. And, see, this is the worst thing. I feel like this would work best as a LARP.
It absolutely would.
Because if you do it as a LARP, then you can include, like, basically as many people in the, like, witness type roles as you like, right?
Yeah, you can, basically.
You could even have those people, like, be the crowd who sometimes interact in the games, like, otherwise. And then sometimes they get to the stand and obviously they take on a role of somebody else because you don't always want the witnesses
and you
to
could,
be...
because obviously in Phoenix Wright there's always, like, different, like, prosecutors as well. So you have, like, you have different characters, like, you have, like...
And
so,
also, like, I feel like this works best as a LARP because a lot of LARPs are done at conventions.
Yeah.
And the thing about conventions is that people, like, tend to wear costumes, which would sometimes be Phoenix Wright costumes, but every fucking, like, prosecutor of the day character in Phoenix Wright, I look at them and I'm like, what the fuck are you wearing?
Yeah.
Why are we supposed to assume that you're a lawyer?
Like, just imagine this line and imagine the ensuing chaos. The prosecution would like to call Deadpool to the stand, right?
See, I believe that. I mean, I believe that he would be, like, a witness rather than, like, a lawyer, but I believe that. Like, alright, so if you're a con organizer and you're looking for, like, a cool LARP, Phoenix Wright.
Phoenix Wright.
Figure out some rules, because that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I've no idea what the crime would be. But it kind of feels like you'd all be, like, improving it to begin with, and it would be, like, ultimately the judge GM's decision as to, A, what the correct answer is, and B, what answer they were going to give based on how it was played.
Yeah, but I also feel like if the defense or the prosecution's reasoning is solid enough, they can just go with
definitely.
that.
Like, only the GM knows the actual answer, so, like, if they get convinced that that answer is wrong by the defense or the prosecution, they could just, like, change it and it would be fine.
Because, again, that would happen in a Phoenix Wright game. I'm sure that, like, if Phoenix Wright got super meta and was a LARP, it would be like, actually, you know what? You've convinced me. Fuck this is the actual solution. You're correct, Phoenix.
Now I'm just, like, thinking of ways to make it more ridiculous, and, like, one of the ways that I'm thinking of is that, like, the prosecution and the defense both have, like, an assistant character, who's not a character, like an assistant player, who just has this board and, like, a tape recorder, and the board has, like, you know, the background of when they make, like, a ridiculously, like, violent accusation on it, and they just hold it up behind their head and, like, put the music on.
Yeah. Hold it! Objection! Yeah.
Well, no, you'd have to have, like, a whole load of flashcards, like some of them that actually just say those things, and one of them that's just that background, and they just sort of, like, wiggle it about a bit.
Yeah. Wait a minute!
To, like, show the blue streams.
Yeah.
That's not necessary, but I feel like if you're going to do that at a con with enough people, you probably would get into, like, doing, like, goofy special effects like that.
Yeah, like, you want, basically, we need stage ninjas as well, if that's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're, like, involving, like, 50 people, then, like, stage ninjas are a must.
Yeah. Man, this sounds like something...
And also,
I actually
like,
know someone who organises LARPs. I'm going to pitch them this idea and see what they think.
Yeah. Because it's like... That sounds like a LARP I would actually play.
I know, right? God, that would be amazing.
Because it would be cool.
I would 100% want to play Dick Gumshoe, though. Like...
To be clear, I say it would be cool, I mean it would be fun. When I think of things that are cool, a bunch of nerds in costume in a room all pretending to be lawyers in a universe where lawyers are, like, laughably bad at being lawyers is quite possibly the least cool thing I can imagine.
But I think as well, I like the idea of incorporating other fictional characters into this as well. Like, let's bring Deadpool into the stand, or, like...
Well, I think it would be the player's choice as to whether, like, they are the actual character that they're cosplaying, or whether they're a lawyer or witness in the Phoenix Wright universe who happens to dress like that and nobody thinks it's weird. Like, that would be one of the rules of the... I think if somebody gets called as a witness, like, one of the rules of the game should be that only the person playing the defense attorney is allowed and only once to comment on their appearance. Everybody else thinks it's entirely normal.
Yeah, I'm imagining just shit like, oh, who's the prosecutor for this case? Well, we have a guest prosecutor. It's Defender of the Universe, Voltron. Like, shit like that.
Yeah.
That the judge presiding over this case is Starscream. Like,
Megatron has fallen. I, Starscream, will have order in the court. God.
Right, imagine a case where Megatron has died, right? And you have to figure out who murdered him, and it's like obviously Starscream.
Yeah,
right?
it's really obviously Starscream, but Starscream is the judge,
God,
so you have to
like
find some way of proving
I really
it's
want to
him.
do it.
Yes. I
think let's pack it up. We've reached the inevitable conclusion of this, which is
This is the thing.
Phoenix
I don't want to
LARP.
end on an idea for a LARP, but I don't
amazing.
honestly know how we're gonna top that. I don't actually know if I have
As
any
we've
more
said,
ideas.
all ideas on this you can absolutely go do, but like
That
if
one
you
especially,
do the Phoenix
like
LARP,
if you actually
have to invite us, that's
if you-
the only way I'm gonna.
yeah, either invite us or at the very least film it so that
Yeah.
we can see.
Yeah,
'Cause-
yeah.
Oh my God. The thing is, though, I'm kind of feeling like Phoenix Wright is culturally pervasive enough, and people like cosplaying Phoenix Wright enough at cons that somebody's probably already done this.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's not been a LARP, it's definitely been at least like a semi-improvised like stage
absolutely.
piece. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess if you're looking for an appropriate con activity, that's a LARP you could do that would be less cringeworthy than normal LARPs.
LARP.
I mean, I feel like any LARP that is by its very definition campy and silly is going to be better than other LARPs. Just because there's only so far you can go with being serious in a LARP.
Yeah, I think so.
So like something like Phoenix Wright is perfect for a LARP, just because you know that series is really fucking silly to begin with.
Yeah.
I feel like if you were going to do like an action LARP, then Deadpool maybe. Although to be honest, I feel like the decentralized nature of a LARP would kind of work against Deadpool because he does do a lot of like fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
So maybe not. Although on a tabletop RPG, like I could definitely see Deadpool.
I mean, I've played games with people who wanted to play Deadpool.
Like actual Deadpool, or they've wanted to play a character who gets to
Break the fourth wall essentially,
and
and
subvert
it's
the
worked for the
medium.
most part. Like
Yeah.
a character who this particular character who I think we called him question mark is like he was aware that he was a played character, and he could also do stuff like he could hear the background noise and he could hear other players' commentary of things that were going on, and the player would answer back in character if you were out of character. So the player was always in character. That player was always in character unless he specified that he wasn't. But he was still aware in character what he was saying.
And other characters were you like, who are you talking
Who are
to?
you talking to? Exactly. Yeah, I was like, who are you talking to, mate?
I mean, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
I feel like obviously that works slightly better if you're doing like a streamed game or something, like something that has an audience,
Yeah.
because then you can actually talk to the audience. But it still probably works otherwise.
Yeah, but like like he was basically allowed to ask the DM questions, and the DM would go, yeah, no, maybe, dude, and stuff like that.
So, I was thinking, right, what if you don't necessarily want to like go as far afield as either using like a really obscure and possibly bad system or making up your own, but you still want like variety and theme. And I'm like, well, in that case, you could do worse than the God, what are they called? Right, so you know Wizards of the Coast owns Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast also owns Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
And ever since the Battle for Zendikar block, which kind of makes sense as a time to start doing this, they've been releasing these like crib sheets for running Dungeons and Dragons scenarios set on the current Magic the Gathering plane.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for them to do that on Zendikar because before like the Eldritch Horror Eldrazi turned up, Zendikar was like Dungeons and Dragons the plane.
Yeah.
Like it was full of like adventurers fighting monsters and traps in dungeons and shit like that. And then the Eldrazi turned up, which was a bit weird, but there you go. And so they did that, but then they also did one for Innistrad, and they did one for Kaladesh, which, like, Innistrad is, like, Ravenloft-type gothic horror, also with Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Now. But I think, like, there were options for you to play it with or without, because, like, obviously the Eldrazi only turn up in the second set, and there was
optional
a whole, like,
Eldrazi for all your...
Yeah. And also, like, that was the return to Innistrad block, so there was an entire Innistrad block without any Eldrazi in it. It was just gothic horror. And then there was one for Kaladesh, which is like futuristic gear punk with... it's like steampunk India, but with, like, straw communism. It's like a really interesting setting to play, and it has, like, a whole lot of races and stuff. So I say pay attention to those if you want, like, a fairly regular supply of, like, really different settings to play. Because... obviously, what's the next one? The next one is Amonkhet, which is going to be a ancient Egyptian-inspired plane with gods, lorded over by Nicol Bolas, who is like probably the biggest of big bads in Magic, except maybe the Eldrazi Titans, but they're all gone for the moment, so probably it's him now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are speculating, because I think there's an underwater plane after that, although that's not been confirmed yet, so it might not be true. But then a lot of people are speculating that we get to see the Phyrexians again, who will be very different again, because they're like, they're more of they're like that, like, body horror, cyber gore type stuff.
Yeah.
It's like they take you to bits and put, they take you to bits and put science inside you, as a great troll fanfic writer wrote. And then turn you into, like, horrible assimilationist cyborgs like the Borg.
Yeah.
Like the Borg, but stickier.
Like the Borg, but stickier.
So if they ever turn up, then probably that plane shift. That's it. They call it plane shift. These like little crib sheet PDFs, which are free, by the way. They're completely free on the Wizards website. Like, if they ever turn up again, that plane shift will probably be pretty neat. I don't know, like, what the plot would be, though, if they do turn up, so I don't know, like, what particular things they might have. I don't know. I kind of feel like once they get the ball rolling, some fans might, like, go back in time and do, like, fan plane shifts for earlier planes that are unlikely to be revisited.
Yeah.
So I guess if that's something that interests you, possibly because you want to have enough plane shifts to actually be able to play Planeswalkers... which is a different kind of game entirely.
That, you know, I really would like... I guess because I've been thinking about the Marvel comic series Exiles lately. Exiles is an exiled from a place. I've been thinking about basically a game where you play people who go from parallel universe to parallel universe. Yeah,
which is what Planeswalkers do.
Yeah.
Then, you know, keep an eye on that. I just remembered one of the games that I thought of, which was, I think it's called Exalted.
Yeah.
Which is basically, I guess, like, the best property to compare it to is God of War, where the idea is you are a divine super being. Like, that's your basic starting point. You're so far above mortals that they don't even register. But you still have a power level comparative to other divine super beings. Like, maybe you're just a demigod or something, and you have to sort of work up that level. Which sounds kind of anime, and to an extent it is. It's not as anime as the actual anime-based games that also have that kind of premise.
Yeah.
I think it's from, like, sort of, like, the classic tabletop era. There's also, if you're like, I'm almost down with stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, except I want it to be based on, like, the old, want it to be based on, like, Conan the Barbarian and stuff. Oh shit, what's that game called that friend Andrew likes? Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea is apparently worth checking out. Because it's that kind of thing, but everybody is like a human slab of meat. Or like a human with a beard and sorcery. And it's all very dark. It's the kind of thing that was like published in Weird Tales, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if that's more your speed, then maybe check that out. Because it's otherwise very similar, but it does have that kind of... You know what I think would be a cool... I mean, obviously, there is an RPG of this.
Yeah.
But it's a CRPG, not a tabletop RPG. Arcanum is a really cool setting that could have...
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, in theory, you could like do it by adapting Shadowrun to be steampunk, but
Yeah.
I don't know. So for the uninitiated, Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura is a Troika game. Troika made Arcanum and the Temple of Elemental Evil official video game adaptation, and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Yeah.
And a few other things before they went bankrupt because they weren't actually very good at managing money, or indeed at making video games. But like their video games have a certain amount of charm to them, which is like kept them going. Arcanum was about a steampunk society, and I mean steampunk in like the sense that it had an industrial revolution. So it's not just like everything has gears on it and shit, and this is like a science fiction setting. It's we have trains and shit. But it was a high fantasy universe that had an industrial revolution. So you still had like elves and gnomes and trolls. I think like you could play as a half ogre or as a half orc, and like stuff like that. There's dwarves as well. And so it was in this weird position where like it was just at the turning point between feudalism and like sword and sorcery and shit, and like there was some very early firearms and stuff. And I think that's an interesting point. It also had the fashion, which is weirdly like I feel like a lot of steampunk sort of like plays with Victorian fashion and pays tribute to it without actually like portraying it, because a lot of the time it tends to go toward like what you could wear now that is steampunk-esque, whereas Arcanum tended to like portraying its characters in the sort of like stuffy wearing too many shirts kind of like things that you actually see people from the Victorian era wearing in photographs. And you know, I thought that's a cool idea. It was a cool game. It had a lot of problems. It especially has a lot of problems now when you like try and run it on modern systems. As an example, if you try and run it on modern resolutions, which you basically have to because the game itself doesn't actually have scaling for a lot of its UI elements, like at all. So there'll just be like a tiny menu on the screen that you can't click on. The game doesn't actually process AI for anything that would be off the normal maximum screen size. So, like, characters walk away and then they just stop. But unlike Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale is probably not going to get a modern update, because one of the reasons that Troika is a thorny subject is that, like, it's one of those ones where the rights are, like, scattered to the wind. And like it would have to be a whole load of companies like coming together to like put the jigsaw back together before anybody could actually like make a remake of it. So you'd probably be more likely to see like an inspired by type of thing, which is unfortunate, but yeah. But I feel like as a tabletop RPG that would probably be really cool. There probably is one that exists like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, part of the problem with talking about, you know, ideas for tabletop RPGs is that we kind of have to like disclaimer everything with this probably exists somewhere.
Yeah, this probably does already exist because nerds are weird and very creative.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, this is probably already a thing, but if it is, we haven't heard of it yet. Like that's the
Yeah, and I mean obviously like several iterations on the same concept exist.
Yeah. Like I'm sure there is, you know, I'm sure there is a game where you play as cats in a cat cafe vying for attention. That probably exists, but I haven't seen
it might
one.
be like a 4chan porn game where all the cats are actually cat girls, but that basic premise probably exists.
Yeah, that definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Man, I'm so glad Hustle Cat was like a cute game rather than a gross game, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, it has body horror in it.
Like, very minor body horror.
It does, yeah. I mean, it depends on, like, your particular, like, triggers when it comes to body horror.
Yeah.
Like, maybe some people are really wigged out by the idea of, like, growing, like, whiskers and shit.
Yeah.
Like, sharp things protruding out of your face.
Yeah. I can guess, like, you know, like, I definitely found it icky, but I wasn't like, oh, God. That kind of a thing. But yeah, I think we're kind of running out of steam a little bit now.
We are. Like, I feel like if we wanted to do another, like, big idea, we would need to make, like, a big push for what's another, like, idea. And I don't know, because, like, as I said, the problem with this is so many of these ideas are like, that's a
Yeah.
cool idea. It probably already exists.
A game where you play a British disabled person trying to pass their PIP assessment.
Okay, I know a lot of people who are trying to, like, pass PIP assessments or appeal failed PIP assessments currently. So I don't think that I'd be able to sell that to many of them, because they would be like, I don't want to play a game based on this concept because it was traumatic enough in real life.
Absolutely.
And to people who don't have to deal with it in real life and don't know a lot of other people who have had to, it would probably just be weird and confusing.
Yeah.
And not really, like, give them an insight into my problems.
Yeah.
That said, in basically all games, like computer games and tabletop games, I'm up for more disabled protagonists. Like, I was thinking recently, I was like, man, I can't actually think of, like, any game that I've played where you play, like, the protagonist is, like, motion disabled.
Yeah.
Like, no game where you play somebody in, like, a wheelchair or using crutches or anything. Like, the closest I can think is that one really brief segment in Mass Effect 2 where you play as Joker.
Yeah. That was interesting.
It was a cool segment, but it's like, that's not the whole game. And
No. It's like, I'm like, I know there's that horror game coming out that's about a blind person who sees through echolocation, and that's how the game world is set.
That sounds cool.
It's interesting, but
real
obvious
blind people do not see through echolocation.
Yeah,
so...
but it's like obvious. But it's like, yeah, obviously though that would be a horror game. You know, like
yeah, it's like I kind of just want. I don't know what kind of genre of game it would be, but like a game where you just have a like. Not even necessarily a game where you just have a visibly disabled protagonist, although more of those would be cool.
Yeah.
Because we do have, like, especially in science fiction, you do have, like disabled main characters.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they have special glasses because their, like, sight would normally be reduced or something. And as soon as you get into, like, Deus Ex style transhumanism, then you, like, run into questions about disability.
Yeah, but you know, there's like, you know,
to be honest, I kind of just want to see, like, a game set in the modern day or very near future where you play as a character in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
I think it would be interesting because, like, obviously in a lot of video games, right, you have access problems. There are some things that the character can't do.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of those things make a lot more sense if you stick the character in a wheelchair. Like, sometimes when you're playing a video game, you're like, why can't my character walk up this, like, you know, 5-inch high step?
Yeah.
And suddenly, if you're in a wheelchair, it makes perfect sense why they can't do that.
Yeah. I think definitely, like, you know how, like, I'm thinking in, like, Lucia, how he can, like, skate on walls and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Maybe a character in a wheelchair whose wheelchair is somewhat, like, cool and gravity defying and allows you a lot of motion in the world.
I should be clear, I'm not talking about, like, a sympathy game where, like, it's just you roll around and there's nothing to do, and you're in a wheelchair and it shows the non-disabled. No, I don't mean that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also don't necessarily mean, like, a game that superizes the disabled person, because I feel like a lot of media does that and it doesn't always work out well.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
personally,
a game that has like another like separate premise, but also incidentally the main character is like motion disabled and in a wheelchair, and like the movement controls take that into account.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would do it as a tabletop RPG, so I don't know exactly how relevant it is.
I think I could definitely see some sort of like RPG based on like choices and decisions and stuff like that. So like kind of like a Life is Strange-esque game.
Yeah.
And you're in a wheelchair.
Oh god, though, that would be really difficult as a GM. Like, I've GM'd stuff that's kind of like that, where you have to like pay attention to every single decision that the players are making and how it might like affect the wider world.
Yeah.
It is so difficult.
Yeah, but I was talking about like as a video game though, like that would work, I think.
Yeah.
But I think like basically I'm thinking like a lot of games that would work, it would just be this character is in a wheelchair. Like that's the difference. Like you could do, to an extent, there would need to be some technological changes, but you could still have a character who was like an elite sniper in a wheelchair. Like,
yeah, that's true. I was just thinking, actually, I have an idea, right?
Yeah.
So there's a Terry Pratchett book called something. And the premise of it is that there's a group of old warriors.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's it called? Cohen the Barbarian. And it's about like this like group of legendary warriors who got old.
Yeah.
And are now on their like they're on a mission basically to go and what is it? They're going to try and find God, but I can't remember why.
Yeah.
Oh right, he's going to go and find God because the civilized world has come and he doesn't have adventures anymore.
Yeah.
And he thinks that like the gods can fix that.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that he has this like entourage of other legendary or semi-legendary warriors, and lots of them are disabled, partly because they're old and partly because they're legendary warriors, and you know you've had your leg bitten off by a giant fish or something.
Yeah.
So I think it would be kind of interesting if you had like a role-playing game where you're all disabled for some reason.
Yeah.
But also that it makes sense that you would all be interacting with each other.
Yeah.
Like it would depend on the genre. Like you could do like Cohen the Barbarian, where you're all old and you're all like already legendary in kind of like an exalted way.
Yeah.
And then you all have to like work around your disabilities with each other, because obviously like not everybody would have the same one, right?
Yeah.
So some people would be able to do things that other people couldn't, which I think would really encourage teamwork. But you could also have, say, a sort of like Stranger Things-esque type setting where you're all like part of your school's disabled students society or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how you all know each other and how you become friends, and then weird shit starts happening and you all decide that you're gonna like investigate it because it doesn't seem like anybody else is like concerned with it.
Yeah.
That would be cool. But I like the idea of not only of making players play disabled characters, but also of like making players play a diverse set of disabled characters in order to get them to work together.
Yeah.
I think that sounds really cool. But yeah, I think that would be cool. Obviously, it would depend on the GM and on the players as to how tastefully it was run.
Yeah.
But I feel like as long as the idea was stipulation is your character has to have a disability, but otherwise build a character as normal.
Yeah.
It would probably be pretty decent. And I mean, obviously, like sometimes players would be like, I'm not really on board with this premise, so I'm going to make my character like deaf in one ear or something.
Yeah.
And that would be a time for the GM to be like, haha, you thought that you were like fobbing me off, but actually like I'm going to bring up a situation where that's relevant and you do have to like rely on your friends.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like that would be cool.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. I think it's yeah, I especially kind of like the idea of like a Stranger Things type thing where you're all part of like...
I haven't actually seen Stranger Things, so I'm basically going entirely off aesthetic here. But...
Yeah, no, but like the idea of a group of kids or high school kids or whatever who are all in like the same, I guess...
social group for some reason or other.
Yeah, but like, you know, like special needs class is what it was called back in my day.
There is that, yeah.
Yeah. Where, you know, you all had like a diverse group of people who all had like various different learning difficulties for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know, and like they're concerned about something weird going on and everyone's just fobbing them off because they're kids, but also disabled kids. So it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, this also works as just a straight up TV series. This is the thing, like basically any idea you can think of, it doesn't matter what it is, in any kind of medium, there is literally no reason never to not have a disabled character, because you're just like...
I think you could also use this like medium as a way of establishing the strengths and weaknesses of all the different characters. Like, for instance, you could have, if we're going with the idea of a special needs class, you could have, for instance, a player who plays a character who is, like, dyslexic.
Yeah.
Which means, and in this case, that means that they're able-bodied, so they can do, like, a lot of stuff that other physically disabled characters can't.
Yeah.
But whenever there's a puzzle that involves, like, reading something or comprehending a large amount of information, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't... And to be clear, because the way I'm talking about this, it kind of sounds like if players at the table have actual disabilities that might get in the way that way, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
This is entirely like, sometimes when you're a bard in D&D and the GM is just like, you play a really good song. Because neither you nor the GM actually know anything about music.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you were actually dyslexic and you wanted to play a dyslexic character, it would be kind of shitty of the GM in that situation to say, here's the actual puzzle that I made for this thing. Look at it and determine that you can't, figure it out.
Yeah.
Or, I suppose it would be more relevant in a situation where you are actually dyslexic, but you decided to play a different kind of character. And it's like, well, my character can figure this out, but I can't.
Yeah.
We've already talked on the podcast about my opinions about how you are not your character, and sometimes your character has abilities that you as a person do not, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's probably not as strong as an idea as the Phoenix Wright LARP, but I'm still interested in how it might be handled. Yeah,
but I just think basically in anything ever through all of time and fiction, there's always room for a disabled person. I think there's a lot of time.
I think that as well.
It's like saying how could we fit a character in with a mobility disability into a video game? Basically, any video game genre ever. It's just your character is in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and I mean obviously when your character is in a okay, so there's oh god, what's the game called? In any case, the game that I'm thinking of, one of the things that you almost instantly notice, because one of the first things you're confronted with in the game is a mirror, right?
Yeah.
Your character has a broken arm.
Yeah.
She mentions it a couple of times that she broke her arm, and it's not related to anything that happens in the game. She just broke her arm the way people sometimes do.
Yeah.
And that acts as a reason for a lot of the stuff that happens in the game. Where you have difficulty picking things up, and you have difficulty running away because you've got to keep your arms straight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's never really explicitly said. It's more that you just sort of fall into this this where you're like, oh, of course you would have difficulty with that thing specifically because it's you have a broken arm.
Yeah.
I think it mainly comes into manipulating objects in your hands. It's an explanation as to why it is difficult for you to do that.
I think it would be interesting as well, because there aren't a lot of characters in video games that wear glasses. I don't know if you've noticed this.
There's certainly not a lot of protagonists who wear glasses in a way that comes up.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting, for example.
I mean, Gordon Freeman does. I suppose he's probably one of the most famous.
Yeah, but that it is there are it's weird because having glasses is having some form of sight impairment is the most common disability for human beings. Is the fact that most of us don't have 20/20 perfect vision.
Yeah.
People.
But I think a lot of the time it's not considered as a disability because it's a problem that we've fixed so thoroughly.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you lose your glasses, there are some people who literally can't see without their glasses. Yes, we fix this, but again, this is a problem for certain people. Some people cannot see very well without their glasses. I know I'm not allowed to drive if I'm not wearing my glasses. This is. We don't see it as a disability, but it is technically a disability.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the game I was thinking of is called Dead Secret.
Right.
And I thought, because of, the stylistic choices it makes and also the themes in it, that it was a South Asian horror game. It's not. It was made in Silicon Valley.
Oh, right. Oh.
But, yeah, it's a horror game about a house in 1965. The main character has a broken arm.
Right.
It's fine. I mean, if you want to go and check it out to see how it handles that, that's probably fine. But I would say just watch somebody else play it.
Yeah.
I feel this is a really good conversation about disability in games. I think we maybe didn't get onto when we were talking about playing outside yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't know necessarily that it's particularly relevant to this subject. So.
I mean, we went on a lot of tangents this episode, so I think when we just figure out how much content we actually have in the episode, we could just this is ostensibly a conversation where we come up with funny ideas for role-playing games, but also half of it is that, but we have tangents in this podcast before when there's not enough
content
to fill an hour and a bit.
there's probably going to be a lot in this episode just because the like concept is so interesting that I at least have like. There's been times in the past few hours when I'm like, I want to keep going with this because I feel we can do it again and it would be good.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we've probably reached the end of the where the conversation can go today. Yeah. I do kind of want to do this again, but obviously
I think so.
We said at the beginning of the game that we're not going to get into the habit of doing this frequently because that's A, not the premise of this podcast, and B, the premise of another much more successful podcast.
Let's be honest, much funnier than this. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, definitely. I think normally we're like, well, what have we learned this episode? We haven't really learned much this episode apart from Phoenix Wright would make a fucking excellent LARP. That's what we've learned this episode.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we achieved what we wanted to do. I feel like ultimately we came up with 2 games here.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Wright LARP and Everyone is Disabled the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm interested in playing both of those. We also mentioned like a bunch of different games, including like ideas we've had in the past. Obviously, I find this topic incredibly interesting. I believe Beth does as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you have any ideas for tabletop games, feel free to post them in the comments, provided wherever this is posted has comments. Right at the moment, we only post on YouTube, which does. So, let us know, because we'd probably be really interested in them. If you have any experience playing some of the more esoteric games we've mentioned today, share those with us as well. Unless the game in question was fatal, in which case only share it if it's really fucking funny.
Yeah.
But no, like I think this was a success. I don't know what we're gonna do next time, but I feel like because you're not free next Wednesday, right?
No.
What I might do with this episode is rather than like cut a huge amount of our like cut a huge amount of our dialogue out, I might like split it in 2 and upload one this week and the other next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I feel like this is an episode that works as a follow up with more.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
But I think we've got a lot of content for supplementary episodes as well.
Oh, definitely. I think like the whole like Sailor Moon thing, I'll probably like split out into a supplementary episode.
All right. Yeah. If you want to reach us anywhere, I'm at Baroness Banff on Tumblr and Twitter. I am also that on Twitch, but like I don't really Twitch stream at the minute. Maybe one day.
You might in the future though, right? Because you said like currently your internet is not making that possible.
My internet's fine at the minute. The thing that's making it difficult right now is the fact that my computer turns off whenever I try to play a video game. And I don't know why.
There's also like it probably would not help that being on a 0-hour contract you wouldn't be able to like make a schedule.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could definitely work up some kind of schedule, but the schedule would basically be whenever I'm off work and I'm not doing a certain time or whatever. But yeah, that would certainly get in the way. But I think basically they would be like short notice streams that would just happen whenever. But, I definitely want to do Batman Silent Night, where I play Batman the Telltale series, but pick only the silent options, because I think that would be funny. And I think I definitely want to get cracking on Rainbow Road one day, and I want to finish playing Hustle Cat as well, so...
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Tumblr as Cleaver Crummish, which I will spell in the description. I can't, not again. You can also find me on Twitch under that name. I stream on Thursdays and Sundays. On Thursdays, it's a bit up in the air at the moment. I probably am going to keep playing Darkest Dungeon, but I'm open to like changing that for something else. On Sundays, we have finished playing Stardew Valley, and we are currently playing Night in the Woods, which finally came out, and it's so good. It's so good, Beth. And I'm so happy and proud for Scott Benson and Bethany Hockenberry and Alec Haloka that like this thing that they worked on for like 3 years is actually like genuinely good.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. That's I guess this has been House of Bards.
That's all us. I don't know. You know the drill by now. I don't know what the image is, but it's in the description. there may actually be other images in this one, just because sometimes we talked about things that could really do with an accompanying image, but presumably if you were watching, you would know that.
Yes.
Whether that was the case or not.
Mm-hmm.
The music is by Kevin MacLeod. We will next see you when we next see you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Are you ever going to bring Shower in the Dark back?
I mean, maybe.
I just have some recommendations, that's all.
Oh, well, if you have recommendations, then obviously. It's like, currently I change shows based on what I think the best category for the thing I want to play is.
Yeah.
And I was going to make Night in the Woods a signal boost, but that game turned out to, like, have a lot more public, like, knowledge than I was expecting it to.
Yeah.
Loads of people know about it. So I was like, all right, well, it's just bath time then. Like, what suggestions did you have?
It's one of Kitty Horror Show's games. It's the one set in the house. I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
Kitty Horror Show? What?
Kitty Horror Show. She's an indie game dev who like explicitly just makes weird, glitchy horror games.
Oh wait, I feel like I might know what game you're talking about.
Anatomy. There we go. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah, I can't play Anatomy because I've actually already seen it.
Ah!
I've seen somebody else play it, so I know how it ends. How it works. But no, Anatomy is really good actually.
No, yeah.
And,
I just thought it would be interesting because it's just like fourth wall breaking.
Oh yeah, definitely. But no,
uses
I've actually
glitchiness as
seen
part
it
of
all
the
way
horror of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's her only one she's charging money for, isn't it?
It is. It's the only one she charges money for.
Although it's like $3.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably worth that if you're into like weird indie horror games.
Yeah.
Anatomy is pretty decent.
Yeah.
It's just I've seen all of it.
Damn it.
No, I saw it because they played it on the Let's Nope, and it was like, oh wow, that's actually like good.
Yeah, but I feel all of Kitty Show's horror games are pretty interesting, at least.
Indie goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, currently playing Night in the Woods. I'm given to understand that Night in the Woods gets marginally scary like later on, so in theory I could have made it a Shower in the Dark, but no, it's just I'm excited for that game to play it. And also like it's actually really good to stream.
Yeah.
Just because I have opinions on it and I do the voices, and like people also have like different opinions on it, and we talk about it as I play it, and it's just good. And also I want May and B to kiss. Actually, I just want them to have like a good relationship that they can patch up together, because it kind of feels like the game would allow that to happen, but also I want them to kiss.